Nightmare from the Soviet era continues to haunt Ukraine and will for generations. Bill Plant got a rare look at the Chernobyl nuclear plant.
22 years after the world's worst nuclear accident, radiation danger at Chernobyl is still so severe that a 16-mile area remains sealed, reached only through 2 checkpoints. The meltdown left a simmering stew of toxic radioactivity under the rubble, covered by a hastily built shelter that's crumbling.
The shelter is far from being airtight. Today there's a risk, in fact, of dust and emitting from the shelter.
Work is finally underway on a permanent solution. Today we visited Chernobyl, which is still one of the most contaminated places on Earth. Special protective clothing is required. The radiation level is so high that you can't stay long. The construction equipment cabs have lead sheeting. Every bucket of rubble is monitored for radiation. The solution, 10 years in the planning, an enormous steel arch to be built in sections, then moved on tracks over the reactor. It'll be taller than the Statue of Liberty and wider than the St. Louis Gateway Arch. It isn't just the project that's huge, so's the cost, almost $1.5 billion. And the U.S. is the largest single country donor.
Nuclear power will always have a shadow over it as long as Chernobyl is a message of concern.
We were on site less than 10 minutes when one member of the group went over his exposure limit.
Right now the dose rate is something like 200 times over the background that you'd have in Washington, D.C.
The steel arch is supposed to keep the radiation contained for at least 100 years, while future generations figure out how to dispose of the mess. Bill Plant, CBS News, Chernobyl.